spawning in the top left of Lightshade, our blue Zerg player, playing for Team NV. This is DRG.
And of course, his opponent here is spawning in the bottom right in the red for Alpha X. Give it up. First down. Oh, you actually swept down that one. Fantastic. I was kind of half convinced that if I said it wrong, you were just gonna like not do anything. So you know what? I'll take it. Thank you, Rushy, for doing your job, even if I'm not. You know, that's fine.
It's okay. I got a little bit of the wobble in there. It's okay. Everybody now knows that we're just all a part of the meme.
Exactly.
We had a very like brief conversation about the subreddit I'm 14 and this is deep beforehand, and you mentioned a term, but if we all just pronounce Zoun's name incorrectly, aren't we all just meme bags?
We are in fact meme bags on this blessed day, Rushy. But you know what? We might be more meme bags. We might be less meme bags. I'm not really sure because it really all depends on how insane Zoun's strats are going to be in this series. We talked about it a little bit before the game. We talked about it a little bit before this game did start. But DRG, right? This is not his best matchup. He has started to do some really cool quick Spire stuff that is very good against Stargate openers. But if there was one Protoss player I was going to look at and say, yeah, he might not build a single Stargate in this series, it will be Zoun. He's got so many cool like adept openers and adept follow-ups. One thing he's actually been doing recently that has been met with significant success is going 3-gate clave. And you might say, why would you go 3-gate instead of 4-gate, right? 4-gate's going to get more done. I'm building a story, Zoun. Why do you got to ruin it, man? Come on.
The moment it went down, I just clicked on it. I was like, uh-oh. How long until he sees it? But you caught it right away. Your story was wonderful, and I'm sure that it was going to take us into a beautiful analysis that would have ended up probably being correct. But instead, he decided to just meme on you. We're all just meme bags after all. He's going to build that Stargate. So let's speculate now. Is this going to go into the a little bit of Fight Club over here with these first rule, but it's all good. Is it going to be Voids or is it going to be Oracle?
Well, here's the thing, right? This is actually a trap build, or at least a trap idea. Trap when you first started doing things. There we go, Void Ray on the way. See, Rushy, before I get into this a little bit of analysis, one thing I will say, casting trick, right? If someone asks you a question you don't want to answer, you just start talking about what's happening in the game, and you say, okay, I'm going to get on into that.
Don't tell them my secrets. What are you doing?
No, these are my secrets. It's fine. See, I didn't even have to answer your question, and no one would know the wiser. Except I bring notice to it. But to finish that thought here, Trap, when he was winning, well, he's still winning all the tournaments, but when he won those first couple tournaments at the start of the year, when he showed us a new way to play PvZ, one thing he was doing was he was going Warp Gate into Stargate, because that allowed him to better take that third base. You have a little bit more, you have your Warp Gate done right around the time you're taking that third base, you have more units, it's fine. And that was the build for a while. And then we saw a lot of Zerg players, Zest in particular, start to go back into the Stargate into Warp Gate because they wanted the Stargate units just a little bit faster. Now, I think this is just going to, yeah, especially here with the third base going down at just around 4 minutes, I think this is just going to be your standard kind of trap build. Although these Zerglings are finding some damage, getting the probe, getting the adept, knocking down that pylon. Nice job there. Okay, but it's going to be Void Ray into Oracle, and we don't see, oh, never mind. Zoun. He is just making me a liar all over the place here because second Stargate's underway, plus one air attack is underway, and I'm like, yeah, we don't see anything more building in this Stargate. It's going to be more ground-based tech after the one Void Ray, one Oracle, which, by the way, is a build. It is what Protoss players have been doing a good bit of, but, well, on this game, the Oracles and the Adepts are finding so much damage here. I think 8 workers have died over the course of this game already. I think 4 of those were actually from the Adepts, which is not something you see all that often.
Yeah, Zoun's been finding a lot of really good damage against his opponent, and this is what's worked well against Zerg players just in general, is you limit the amount that they can build and grow and expand. The creep spread's not super far out onto the map either. I mean, even just like up here to the northeast of the third base location, there just really isn't a whole lot to work with. So great start here so far for the Protoss player. It is going to be double Void Ray production back behind it, plus 1 air weapons as well. Somewhere Roddy is just making happy Dutch noises. as the Protoss player here is also going to secure his transition into ground. So more than likely going to cut it at 6 Void Rays. That seems to be the magic number if you're not going to full commit into the Sky Toss in the mid game, but that's still going to provide a lot of overwhelming power for Zoun.
Now here's my question though, Rushy, do you enjoy Mutaplay? Because that is absolutely what's going to happen on in here. We have Baneling Nest done. We have +1 melee about halfway down here. So this Oracle will still stay alive, causing yet more havoc, mayhem, sadness, and woe for DRG. Or as someone in chat is saying, it is Dong Ragu versus Z-Dog. So, yeah. DRG, he's not a Zerg player. He is a pasta sauce. That's what's happening in this game.
We're all just meme bags after all.
We're all memes on this blessed day.
This is true. Okay, so I'm a bit concerned here. I keep waiting for that Spire to inevitably go down, but I don't like this. There is a lot of really scary potential that can be done here, but I feel like that works better if you're up against 1 Stargate rather than 2. 2 Stargates really gets you a quick transition into large amounts of Phoenix, and once you have a ton of Phoenix onto the field, not only are they going to deal really well against the Mutas, I just feel like they're going to have a lot of potential across the map, and it might spur the response of Zoun to get into that late game carrier tech a bit earlier. But hey, DRG's the one that's got to play this out. I'm just the one that's got to talk about it, and he's probably going to make me look silly in the end. So I'm all okay with that.
So you talked about Mutas versus double Stargate Phoenix and the trials and travails of that, but here's the thing. At least if this is the build that I think DRG is going for, that means that, of course, he does have a Roachhorn on the way as well. This is probably just to be defensive here, but the thing you do, and yeah, he's actually going to be able to get away with this, by the way. 4th base now underway from Zoun as he just wants to play a little bit of a greedy game on Lightshade. The way you do here, the thing you do is notice DRG, he's going to bank up to about 1,300 gas. He's going to get 13 mutas to start on out. He's going to look to run across the map, get as much damage done with those 13 mutas. But as he continues to build gas, he's going to immediately go on into Corruptors behind this, and he's going to force the Protoss player to deal with Muta Corruptor, which was a style that was a big deal right in part of the Swarm. We saw a lot of it. Here we go, 13 mutas are underway here. And again, the moment we see Zoun moving on into Phoenix behind this, it's going to be Corruptors, and the whole point of this, well, there are a couple reasons. A, it's a really mobile style, lets you get damage on the map. It's really nice. But also, what it does is it forces the Protoss player to never get into carrier tech, never getting really into that storm carrier transition that is so scary for the Zerg player here, or for the Zerg to deal with. And it forces the Protoss player onto that lower tech, that maybe high eco but lower tech style that the Zerg can deal with just a little bit better. So that's kind of the idea behind this. This is what we've seen DRG and Solar and Rain are really the instigators of this style, to put it that way. And other mutas, they're going to fly in. There are 15 of them on the map. I think 13 in this clump. And yes, there's a photon cannon. There's a shield battery. But actually, yeah, especially with the Phoenix popping it out just in time, this first clump of mutas not going to get much done. But look at this. DRG is not going into Corruptors like I expected. He is going into a lot more mutas here, and that's kind of questionable, actually.
Well, this is a very interesting moment here. The mutas are going to wreak havoc up in the main base, but a stasis trap does catch the Zergling run by over at the 3rd base location, so DRG has to try and find damage elsewhere. These mutas have been largely pushed off so far, really only losing 2 Phoenix for the cost of 7 of those mutas. Most of the Zerglings get cleaned up as well, but the mutas are trying to do a little bit of damage control, trying to take out the overwhelming amount of cannons that have been placed down into all of the different bases here, as Zoun is doing everything possible to try and hold this push together. Yo, everybody from DeMuslim Stream, welcome! You guys are watching the 3rd place match in this PCForMan Super Tournament between DRG and Zoun. It's a ZVP. We're just in game number 1, so you've tuned in at the perfect time. Big shout out to DeMuslim. Thank you so much for the support and the raid. As the Lings are going to come wrapping around here on this army, this is where these mutas are going to be very, very effective, though, as they do work out against the overwhelming supply. But Zoun has the engagement. He's able to make the most of it. The balance is not going to be that great against the Voids when there are Archons down below helping out.
Rusty, balance whining in a game like this, I am so disappointed. But yeah, the magic boxing, it was good. It was not good enough there with the Phoenix on the air and the Archons on the ground. All of the mutas, they evaporated here. And so long as Zoun does not lose every single bit of stuff he has. I mean, he's lost everything on the ground at this point, but with his air dominance that he has, more and more mutas are on the way, but they're not doing much of anything. We have a fleet beacon underway, +1 shields as well. GG Zoun with the proper response to this tech. he takes game number 1.
Spawning in the bottom left for Alpha X, our blue Protoss. This is Joe.
And his opponent here in the bottom right, in the red for Team NV, trying to equalize things out on Blackburn. Give it up for DRG. Now, I have been told, Rushy, that Twitch chat is saying that you are 2.02 mountains tall. Please tell me, are you talking like 14 or so? Are you 28,000 feet tall? Or are we talking more like East Coast mountains that might as well be hills?
Well, let me answer that question by saying there's an overlord going out onto the map right now. And, no, it is very true. I do stand 2 mountains tall. It's going to be a bit of a problem next time we have like an in-person event, and where I'm not going to be able to like fit in any of the venues because they just don't respect tall people that way. So big shout out to the tournament coordinator that just has an outdoor event, so I can just bask in the glory of StarCraft from afar, and everyone can look at me and go, wow, so beautiful.
Oh yeah, I mean, that makes sense. The question though, as you stand 2 mountains tall, or 2 and a little mountains tall, 2.02 mountains, who is bigger then? The biggest of Gabes, or the man who stands 2 mountains tall?
Oh, I'm pretty sure that I think I am taller than the biggest of Gabes, which I don't intend to steal his biggest of title because I just don't need to. But it's yeah, it'll be interesting. I've had a lot of really raw reactions from people when I have attended events. What was it? I think it was Pig when I went to DreamHack Austin 2018, and everything was done. He just got done with the Cyril Mana finals. I don't remember if he actually casted them with In Control or not, but he was signing autographs afterwards, and I walk up and he just does the thing that people do where he looks at where my chest is at, because that's where people's heads normally exist, and then does the pan up, and it's like, wow, you're tall. And I was like, thank you, I've been called much worse than that.
Yeah, you get the whole, hey, what's it like up there? Do you play basketball?
Oh my gosh, the number of people I've disappointed in my life when it's like, do you play basketball? And I'm like, no, I'm a musician. And they look at me and just go, oh. It's like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to disappoint you today.
Well, I guess it's fair, right? If you think about it, if you're a mountain, right? If you're a mountain tall, or even 2 mountains, the basketball's going to be very small. Very, very difficult to put in the hoop. So you know what? I absolve you of your sins, Rushy. It's fine. But as another tall person, not as tall as you are, I'm also objectively horrible at basketball. So, you know, solidarity.
That's fair. Hey, Beowulf, there's a Void Ray incoming again. It's another not ground game. Or
Joan, please show me this cool thing that I've been talking about. Well, you know what, Rushy, here's the thing. I'm going to talk about it anyways because I want to talk about it. And as a caster in this game, that is my prerogative. Something Joan has been doing, and maybe we'll see it later on as Void Ray does complete Oracle on the way, is he's been going for 3-gate claves. And we're not going to see it in this game. Hopefully we're going to see it in the next game maybe. And it's really cool. It's much like we saw the evolution from like 4-gate down to 3-gate, 2-gate up to 3-gate, where it gets almost about as much done as a standard 4-gate glaive will be, but you also get a third base on time, and then your follow-up from that actually is decently timed. So it's not quite as much of a I either need to get damage done or if I'm dead type of build, which is really cool. But now I've got that out of my system. We can talk about this game in earnest because it's Blackburn. It's a double Stargate build. Once again, this time no +1 because the rush distance is still rather short. But Rushy, talking about Blackburn I just can't get Joan right today. It's fine. +1 is now underway. When we talk about Blackburn here, Blackburn is actually kind of a surprising map because the natural to natural rush distance is not all that long, but the natural to third is. So you might look at this map, and we saw a lot of Protoss players doing this at the start of the season where they would go and they say, yeah, Queen Walk, it's going to be great. And it looks like actually that's what DRG is going for here. And you find out actually it's not all that great, right? It takes so long to find your way on into the third base, especially if you don't micro your queens appropriately, and they do end up going through those slow zones, that it's actually a fairly decent map for Protoss players to hold against those queen walks with just +1 Void Rays.
Yeah, the positioning I think is going to be an interesting tale for Blackburn, and we've seen Blackburn evolve over the course of the map pool for Zerg players. At the very beginning, I mean, this used to be like a very quick auto ban for a lot of Zerg players, especially ZVT, because of the very, very good tank positions that can be used. But we've been seeing this more and more in map pools where Zerg players are actually opting to play on this map because of the 4th base gold expansion. If you do knock down these rocks, there is a lot of room to maneuver and create some interesting attack paths. But you're absolutely right. The defense against something like Sky Toss is imperatively harder than in other maps, just because of the longer walk distance for those queens. So if DRG is going to be successful in taking this 4th base location, he's going to have to be very diligent with his queen positioning to make that all work. But he can't get too locked in the air defense here of his opponent. Oh, okay, that's going to be relatively well done. But DRG needs to recognize that there is going to be that ground transition once again. Charge is on the way, +1, and he's going to choose to go into Spires. He's running back the game 1 build.
I'm just hoping we see the Rainer or the Solar Spire build, right? Where it's all about, Mutant into Corruptor, that style that we see so often. And I think that's what's going to... Actually, we got +1 ranged on the way here. That is... this is going to be a small commitment to mutas in this game, right? Roachborn is done, +1 ranged is on the way. So what I expect to see here actually, like 5, 7, 8 mutas, move on over to the map, try to see if you can find some damage, force some Phoenix or something, and then just hit with a sledgehammer of roaches, right? It's very similar. Actually, wait, never mind. I guess Lurker Tech, because we have a infestation pit on the way. This version of the Spire build is not something I see all that often, at least recently. So I'm curious to see what exactly DRG has in store for us here in this game. Now, roaches, of course, are on the way, right? Just defensive roaches at this point. And the Spire has been scouted, so any sort of muta swap is not really going to be all that useful. But maybe, just maybe, right? Because Zoun has scouted this, seeing that Spire is going to force him into a tech that he doesn't want, and DRG is really not going to do much with this Spire tech whatsoever. We're going to have to find out.
Yeah, I kind of like the mind games, actually. I think that that is something that's worth doing here, and especially against an opponent. Like, I feel as if DRG is, I mean, he's playing a little bit outclassed against Zoun right now. I don't think that's actually the case. I think this could be a pretty competitive matchup. I don't know the statistics off the top of my head, especially since Zoun's a relatively new player to the scene comparatively to DRG, that is. But at that point, again, if you can't out-micro your opponent, you have to outthink your opponent. And at this point, throwing down the Spire to get Zoun to respond to potential air weapons that might be coming in. He's already got a couple of Phoenix here, which is investment that could have gone elsewhere. That could have been more probes. That could have been more Void Rays. It could have been more ground units. But instead, right now, it might not be useful in any regard. And in a game like StarCraft, those little details do add up in a big way. But DRG's not going to want to push into this just yet. He has got Void Rays in the sky over on Zoun's side of the map that he just cannot deal with at this point. But you're absolutely right. Good call. Lurkers are going to be on the way. But Lurkers, again, is just going to push Zoun into that inevitable sky toss that Zerg players fear.
I'm actually really... It feels like Zoun just has the perfect read on everything that DRG wants to do in this game. As we see some roaches assassinated, we need, of course, that supply for... for lurkers and for vipers and all that fun stuff. But here's the thing, right? Zoun has opted to go for a significant amount of disruptors in this game. He already has 3. He's got 2 more underway, 2 by 2 at a time. And these lurker timings that we see Zerg players go do, Hydra Lurker to go try to deal with the Sky Toss before it really gets into terrifying Sky Toss. Well, disruptors are very good against that. In fact, the reason we saw Raynor do it against Zest and Katowice was specifically because because Zest only played High Templar style. Right, he did not go on into the disruptor tech that we were so used to, or that we see Zoun doing here. So we're gonna have to see whether that's gonna work out for DRG in this game. Now, he is doing a really good job of opening up all the different attack paths, and that is what makes this map really cool. Right, it starts really small but opens bigger here, and now we do have disruptor shots gonna go on out. 2 of the 5 have been spent, but now more and more underway. And without the Vipers here, this is just not a fight that DRG can really take. But now, well, okay, one more shot. Yeah, with the cooldowns, there will be continuous shots for the time being.
And look at this.
And the game goes on.
Look at the creep spread here, Beomolth. It's just everywhere, impressively onto the side of the map of Zoun. He's going to have to really clear this out. The creep spread being so far forward means that those Zealot run-bys are not going to be nearly as effective. But it's a very quick cleanup crew here in the center of the map. One of those disruptors gets pulled in the last second. It cancels the blast. So DRG, whoo, living on the edge there, but he manages to take a couple of those units and really doesn't get punished for it.
Yeah, I think like 4 Hydras died in that last engagement. It really could have been a lot more there. Really fantastic pulls, really fantastic cancels there on the disruptor shots coming in from Zoun. And now, well, he only has 2 disruptors on the map. 2 more are on the way, of course. But this, even without that, this is a scary ground army here from Zoun. We have, what is that, 5 Archons, couple disruptors, the Phoenix, which don't really matter. He was kind of baited into those, but they can still lift all of Lurkers. Now, okay, so DRG here putting aggression onto the gold base here. It means like it's going to be difficult for this gold base to find any value. But also, oh, disruptor shots coming on in. These are the shots that Zoun was looking for on the previous fight. And now look at this DRG. He's just kind of Zoun'd out of his own side of the map at this point. Now the Lurkers are finding good damage, but he will lose that bottom side base. And finding his way home is going to be a difficult thing indeed.
He is not responding to the Zealots back at home, and these are going to get an insane amount of damage. And I feel like the Lurkers really didn't do much other than just assault that 4th base location. But this is just continued back and forth damage here. Oh, it's not what he needed here. Giant disruptor shot takes out a good chunk of this army, and that's going to leave these Lurkers completely exposed. But DRG is trying to rally on his supply here, but it comes at the cost of 12 workers, all of the units into that natural location. It's just taken care of, and a lost base. This base is already being replaced a little bit at a time. What a scrappy back and forth here. This was a wild engagement.
There's something we need to talk about because it is the only reason that DRG did not lose every single Lurker there. You saw a parasitic bomb go on top of the Void Rays, right? Makes sense. Void Rays clump, you put a parasitic bomb. But there was also an observer with those Void Rays, and the parasitic bomb killed the observer, right? Not even intention. I don't think this was intentionally here from DRG, but because that observer died, suddenly there was like 5-6 Lurkers left that absolutely should have died. The observer popped. Zoun could no longer take the fight, and DRG is still in this game. Also, you talk about not being able to resupply. Well, losing that base, and I think he lost a couple Overlords as well, Overseers as well, did mean that DRG was supply block there, but now we're back at 200 supply. DRG is building himself a fairly nice bank, as Zoun now trying to take his 4th base. Once again, it is 13 minutes. He is starting to run out of money on his core 2-3 bases. But still, DRG has also lost bases. He's only up 1 base on the Protoss player at this point. You want to be a little bit more than that, maybe. And now we have the fight kicking off in earnest once again. The Vipers are not quite there, so Disruptor Shot's going to go on top of just about everything here. Now there's enough ducks, but it's too little, too late. That was a lot of stuff. If you look at value, 700 resources lost there for the Protoss in that last engagement, but over 2,000 there for the Zerg player. Massive shots go on and off, and even on creep, DRG's not getting the splits that he needs.
Disruptors, man. Like, I gotta bite my tongue at times. It's just a very good position here that Zoun has found himself in. But here come the Lurkers on the left-hand side. All of those disruptors are going to get actually dealt with. They do go on to the Lurkers, but the Lurkers are allowed to survive, so that does give them a little bit of positioning here, and that's going to allow the Hydras to stutter step forward, but off creep, they're not going to be able to chase too terribly far here. They've got to be careful. Those disruptors are going to be winding up for shots once again, but Zoun is on the retreat. Oh, this is a much better position in catching that creep here on the high side of those slow it down zones. I don't even know what they're called. That's all they're going to get worded out here, but what a concave. You said it yourself, Beowulf. Concave beats convex, and this is a push that I think is going to be very difficult for Zoun to try and deal with. All the Void Rays have been cleared up. All of the Zealots on the ground have been dealt with. The Lings come in from the backside, and DRG makes this a 1-1 in this best of 5. We've got ourselves a series, ladies and gentlemen. Spawning in the bottom left. It's our red Protoss player for Alpha X. This is Zoun.
And his opponent in the upper right, in the blue, taking game number 2 with some fantastic engagements for Team NV. He is DRG. I'm sorry, Don Ragu.
That's Dr. G for you. He didn't go to 8 years of StarCraft school for you to not call him doctor.
I mean, you know what? That hits close. I'm a PhD student. That hits close to home. So yes, I'm sorry, Dr. Ragu. I apologize. Who would far be it for me to deny your mastery of StarCraft.
Oh.
And actually, technically, right? So if you look at things, a master's is, I'm going to learn, I'm going to kind of hit the terminal degree for industry. A PhD is, I'm going to add something new to the knowledge of the world. And DRG has added many new things to the knowledge of the world. He's innovated different styles. He's developed new ways to play the game, and he's still doing it 8 years later. So DRG absolutely, at the very least, has an honorary PhD of StarCraft, if not an earned one.
That would actually be very interesting to see, like, when we're all said and done in the StarCraft universe, which, to be clear, I hope is a very long time from now. It would be neat to go back and see the accomplishments of different StarCraft players, casters, content creators to the scene, and attribute it to academia. So, like, what official awards would we give somebody like Artosis and Tasteless? Would they be like the PhD in history for StarCraft? Would we see like some of the best players? Serral. Well, we all know Serral is just like he's the god of StarCraft. So I've seen streams where it's the Church of Serral that just absolutely cracked me up. We talked about that a little bit.
And talk about. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say we talked a little bit about that off stream as well. But I think we have a lot of people that opted not to do like personal accolades in their own life and instead contributed to StarCraft. So it'd be nice to give back.
Yeah, 100%. You talked about the Church of Serral, by the way. Were you in the scene when the Church of Tasia was a thing?
No.
Yeah, there was I want to say it was Lycan Group on Reddit back in the day, who every time Tasia was playing in the summers of Tasia, he'd go and he would post the homily of Tasia. I forget exactly how it went. So blessed Tasia, hallowed be thy name, may thy marines stem, and I forget what it was. It was absolutely brilliant. And then people would worship at the Church of Tasia before he would go and bop some nerds on his way to like too many tournament victories. So, a little bit of StarCraft history there. And also, yes, an answer to a question from Sanderson Smithsonian. DRG is the one that has developed the current method of dealing with the 4-gate Glaive Adept all-in. It is the DRG defense with the Zerglings and the Queens into a slightly later Roachborn. So, yeah, we talk about innovations here. At the very least, DRG wrote his thesis on defending Gladepts. Now, he still struggles against Protoss, as we saw in Game 1. At the very least, he's got to deal with some Glaive tech.
It is going to be it is going to be that air opening once again. So it seems as if there's something in the water for Zoun to consume here, as he is choosing not to go into the style that he has played a lot of in the past. Void Ray into Oracle. Into that +1 once again, so we're going to get a little bit quicker timing on that +1 attack for all of the air units in the sky. And a double Stargate once again. DRG got to find a different way to run this back in game number 3. Despite the fact that he did really well in game number 2, I can't help but feel like he played on a razor's edge for the entirety of that game until all of a sudden he just got a great engagement and he won. So what is he going to try and do here in game number 3? It looks like the Roachborn's going to go down just a little bit earlier. He is doing a diligent job of scouting to try and get some of these timings, but Twilight Council Forge coming down for Zoun will make that difficult as both players try to transition into the center of the game.
Yeah, and I don't think one thing we weren't giving DRG quite enough credit for is, oh god, he lost that army, right? He's dead. Then he ended up winning. He had a massive economic lead over Zoun in that game. He pretty much had every base on the map. He was sitting there, even as he did lose that army at like 4K, 2K of a bank. And Zoun, as well as he was trading, right, he was just never really developing that bank. And he really wasn't ever totally maxed out. So yeah, DRG lost that army, but one thing it's easy to forget about how Zerg looks to play is they're fine with losing an army so long as they lose the army on the other side of the map and so long as they knock some tech down. And that is what Zoun was able, or DRG was able to do in that last game on multiple points, resetting the tech count of his opponent. So then when he remaxed, even if the army of Zoun was still scary, it was less scary. And that's what happened there. So I don't know if we need to see DRG go and do something vastly different. I think maybe you don't get Aspire. But actually, I kind of like that expenditure, right? You spend 200 minerals, 200 gas, and you force multiple Phoenix out from Zoun that he would not otherwise have spent. That maybe is another disruptor or two. Maybe that's some more chart, whatever it is. So it would be units that are much more effective at fighting against the army that that DRG made. But look at this. We have a bunch of gateways underway. Charge is just about done. We may see we may see like a Void Ray charge lot Archon time here. And there we go. Warp Prism underway. Yeah, this is something that we see occasionally. And we saw it a lot more right when Void Rays were first buffed. But it relies on this idea that, well, there's a very specific way you deal with kind of the turtle to late game sky toss tech, right? The trap first started that players have been doing for a while now. And this looks to lean into the assumptions that players make about it, right? You get a lot of chargeless, you get Archons, and yeah, you get 4 to 6 Void Rays. I don't know if that's going to be quite the case here because, again, +1 air attack is done. But it is definitely an opportunity that Zoun may look to go on in here as he has, what is that, 8 gates done? Yeah, 8 gates done here, so just warping a bunch of Adepts, warping a bunch of Chargeless, warping a bunch of Archons, and go to town. Looks like that is absolutely what he's doing here. The question now is whether DRG is going to be prepared.
Well, if DRG's waiting and banking his larva for that Spire to finish up, that's going to be a troubling situation for him because it is a lot of supply coming at this time, but it doesn't seem to be the case. 16 Roaches on the production tab, but is it going to be soon enough? Zoun's got an opportunity here to really strike while the iron is hot, and there's not that many units here. The Queens do make it look like a bigger army than it actually is, but 17 more Roaches do need to pop out to join this at this time. The Queens are going to be primarily responsible for trying to take the Void Rays out of the sky, but the Queens are caught at the front. The Roaches are not in the back. That means they're not going to be able to be a part of that fight, and these Zealots are just going to bulldoze through all of those Queens, and without the Queens able to deal anti-air defense, that means DRG's going to have a difficult time dealing with the Void Rays, but the supply count's currently dwindling here for DRG, and that's just going to be too much. Zoun jumps on the timing here, gets a great engagement, and puts himself in a match point advantage in this third place situation. Well played. Spawning in the top right on his final tournament life here, the PCForMan Super Tournament. It's our blue Zerg player. Needs to win 2 to come out in third place. For Team Envy, this is DRG.
And his opponent here in the bottom left, in the red, 1 game away from a RAM instead of a hard drive. He is for Alpha X, Zoun.
I was waiting that time. I was gonna think about it. It's like, wait, is he gonna say it right? Do I just twist? Do I twist and shout? You know, I was ready that time.
Yeah, see, my job here as a co-caster is not to say interesting things about the game. It's to make you, of course, for everyone who's wondering, Rush is running production today. He's doing a fantastic job of it. It's just make your life as confusing as possible. Chaos.
You know, I'm a school teacher. I thrive in chaos because that's just my life. So, you do bring a good amount of chaos though in the puns. the Punderdome is always to be feared whenever I cast with you.
Don't worry, Rushy. I'm just prepping you for when you go back into the classroom in the fall. You just have this whole library of really bad jokes to make the kids just groan and respect your mastery as the master of the pun and therefore listen to you better. This is how it works, by the way. Studies have shown that, you know, there's a reason dad jokes are dad jokes. They just inflict a dominance on the kids, and they're more likely to listen to you on a daily basis. And that is not true, but you know what? I'm going to pretend it is anyways.
If you say anything confidently enough, it will sound true. And I mean, I was believing it. My personal secret is I take whatever dances are on TikTok and then I do them poorly.
Oh no!
Because then they're just like, oh, what are you doing? No, stop, please. And it's like, wait, this is how you dab, right? And then they're like, why? Why would you do that?
If they don't do it in class, it's brilliant.
I mean, it's the best way to get it to stop. Let me tell you. So there you go. Anybody that has to work with somebody in their teenage years, you want them to stop doing silly, cringy things. There's your secret. Don't tell them I told you though.
Yeah, but now Rushy, you sound like you had a diatribe about this map in ZVP that you really wanted to get on into, and then we introduced players, so you lost a little bit of time. But tell me, how do you feel about this map in ZVP?
Oh, I feel like this map is rather Protoss centered. A lot of good, especially for air toss. Or sky toss, rather. A lot of good positions to try and abuse, good dead space in between the second and the third base. We talked about this in a previous series with DRG where this post actually isn't that very good for setting up your Overlord can still be hit by stalkers, it can still be hit by sentries, so it does make it a little bit more difficult for the Zerg player in this game to really get a solid setup, especially since if you have to play an additional natural location like DRG had to, Zoun was able to get over and block his natural. They're really far away from the natural location, so it does make it very difficult for the Zerg player if the game does not go standard in their direction. But I mean, that hasn't stopped anybody from winning on this map before, but that's my personal outlook on this. So I'll be interested to see if DRG can wrestle back his second win in this series on Oxide. I'm trying to think if this would have been his map pick. I think it might have been Jones.
Yeah, I don't know. What I do know, though, is I think we're going to see some queens. They're going to waddle because take a look at the thrust of the creep spread here. There's a reason, as much as you say, yeah, if it goes into a standard game, it doesn't feel great for the Zerg. There's a lot of dead airspace, et cetera, et cetera. But there is a very quick distance between the third base that DRG has chosen and the third base that Zoun has chosen here. How many queens do we have? Only 6, though. No more on the way. So, well, okay, so fourth. This may actually still be a queen walk, is maybe spending some money, and then we'll go back on into queen production. Because, again, if you look at the thrust of his creep spread, it is rapidly getting extremely close to that of the Protoss third base here, and that will allow him to just spend as little time off a creep as possible, make that happen. But the fact that we don't see more queens on the map here means that it will not be a queen walk, and I'm just trying. I don't understand these players, apparently. Because I'm like, yeah, we have the hallmarks of this, but no, it's fine here. And Zoun is doing the same build he has done in the last 4 games. +1 air, double Stargate, moving on into ground behind that. And here's the question. Does he look to turtle it up here like he did in games 1 and 2, or does he go for the Void Ray Charge Lot Archon all in? Most likely, I don't think he does that one again. I think that's one of the things where it's like, you know, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. It's going to be in the back of a DRG's head at this point. It's something he's going to be looking for a little bit more intensely. We're going to have to find out about that one. Oh, well, look at this. With a Revelation being so cheap for Void Rays, they're just going to knock down a little bit of creep. That's not something you see every day.
I don't think we should look away from the queen walk here at this point. This creep is really far forward. I think you're onto something. I keep an eye on the production tab here to see if that spire goes down. And it's going to be an infestation.
Oh, wait.
Pit. I think you might be onto something here.
No, this is what this is. Okay, this is something. I'm sorry to cut you off. This is something that Solar does specifically. I don't see many other players do it. Look at this. We have an infestation pit on the way. +1 ranged on the way as well. We're going up to 8 or 9 queens. This is a queen walk, but it's not the traditional one. This is something we see Solar do, where it is Queen Roach, and you get like 14 Swarm Hosts, right? And it is like this weird amalgamation of you get your traditional Swarm Host tech, but you get your creep so far forward that with those 9 Queen and the Roaches, it's just this extremely powerful fighting force. But oh, okay, that's not what we're gonna see here because there's a Hydra. Never mind. Okay, there we go. 13 Swarm Hosts and a Hydra Den because DRG wants to have some ability to come back to develop tech beyond that. But yeah. 13 Swarm Hosts on the way. We should see a bunch of Roaches and Ravagers behind that. And this is just a big sledgehammer of Zerg that's going to look to hit Zoun in the next 30 seconds.
Zoun's got to get a good scout here because this is something that can easily just jump on top of him if he's not careful, especially since he's making the transition into the Fleet Beacon right now, which means Void Ray speed is in mind, carrier tech is going to be in mind. Zoun might not be thinking about this, and look at the supply count, 148 to 113. Now keep in mind, the inflation of that supply for DRG is because Swarm Hosts are just so stinking expensive, but the Observer's going to see the Queens coming up here. This has got to be a trigger pulling moment here for Zoun. He has to make sure that he has this defense in place because the Swarm Hosts are here. The first set of larvae are on their way. Now, what do we have here for the defenses here at this third base location? There is only 1 cannon, but plenty of those shield batteries, but a good stasis trap is going to basically nullify this whole push. Beowulf, there's nothing here left here now at this point. There's so much dead time.
And all the Queens are dead too. Now, luckily here for DRG, he didn't go quite for the build I was expecting. He has more and more Hydras are on the way, but there were 11 Queens on the map. There are 3 now. Okay, that 1 Disruptor will go on down. And the and the Swarm Hosts are very rapidly. They are going to get their charges back once again. But there are 7 Void Rays on the map. They have +1, and we have Void Ray speed on the way, +2 air attack on the way here. Zoun, he also has his 4th base done, and that is such a cool hold there from Zoun. Normally you're like, okay, how do I hold against the Swarm Host, right? It's Archons, maybe get Storm, whatever. No, one stasis trap means that the entire load of Locusts got nothing done. And look at this, Joe, and he's going to try to bait it into it once again here. Zerglings, though, will trigger this time.
Yeah, that was a much smarter play here. Disruptor's going to be able to try and move on forward, but it actually does not connect here. Does get stopped. And this is a bit more aggression here for DRG. He's at least getting a little bit of damage done, but not able to push on into the Nexus, and he sacrifices a lot of units here for not a lot of gain. If we look at that battle report, it's only a Void Ray and 2 Zealots that have gone down so far. A handful of those shield batteries and photon cannons is not going to be that big of a deal of a loss for Zoun. He's holding his economy tight for right now. DRG still has a supply advantage. This push is not over, but Zoun really doing a nice hold so far.
Rushy, look at the resources lost in this game. Zoun has lost 12 total units. Okay, now it's going to increase just a little bit. But for a moment, it was like plus 3,000 resources. Zoun had only lost 12 units. Insane value there. But now Disruptor shots are going to find some massive value on these Hydras. The Hydras do not have speed. Well, they do not have speed yet, so it's very hard to micro against these Disruptors. But hey, now we're starting to see at least some form of economic damage here. Nice concave with these Hydras does mean that the Void Rays will struggle to fight, but here's the thing. It's only +1 range. There is no carapace. These +2 almost carriers are going to shred everything that's on the ground for DRG, and Zoun, he's hitting that point. When we look at Swarm Host tech, we say, okay, is the opponent above 150 supply? It's suddenly a lot easier to deal with things, and that's going to be the case here. Once again, the Stasis Trap is going to deny all but like 3 of those Locusts from getting anything done. I really love that response there from Zoun, and now we have the army. Much has been made of the +2 carrier timing, Rushy, but in this game in particular, +2 carrier timing when we don't even have +2 range, not yet. No carapace as well to keep these Hydras alive. This is looking a little scary here for the man from Busan.
Yeah, this is not the situation that DRG was hoping to play into, because there's still a whole lot of supply wrapped up in Swarm Hosts. And those final Disruptor shots finally take DRG down. Zoun 3-1 comes out ahead. 3rd place into the PCForMan Super Tournament. Well played for the blue or the red Protoss player.